UFC 274 Oliveira vs. Gaethje takes place this Saturday live from Phoenix, Arizona, and the pay-per-view card looks to be one of the best ones of the year. A lot of interesting fights, intriguing fights with two title fights on it. I'm going to give my preview, give my predictions of what I think is going to happen. It's been a while since I did a prediction video, so I'm going to really enjoy this one. Kicking off the pay-per-view at 155 pounds, you have Donald Cowboy Cerrone taking on Joe Lauzon. Now, Joe Lauzon, this is his first fight back since 2019. That was a TKO win over Jonathan Pierce. And over his career, it seems like anybody at 155 pounds you can think of, Joe Lauzon has fought him. He's fought Clay Guida, Jim Miller, Diego Sanchez, Takanori Gomi, Ali Quinta, Michael Chiesa, Michael Johnson, Anthony Pettis, Melvin Gouliard, Rafael Alonso, and there's just many more names after that as well. Now, the key for Joe Lauzon, obviously, to win this game comes in his grappling ability. He has 17 out of his 28 victories come from submission, but he does still bring the fight standing as well. He has 9 career knockout wins or TKO wins. So it's not uncommon for him to just immediately go for the submission, but he will stand and try to give the people the best fight that they ask for. He's not one to kind of back off, even at the age of 37, which he is now. He's willing to stand and trade. So it's going to be a great fight and a great return for Joe Lauzon coming back. Now he takes on another legend in the sport in Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Now, Cerrone, he has fought the who's who of everyone at both 155 pounds and 170 pounds. It'd be longer to list who he's fought than who he hasn't fought, which is actually a surprise that these two have never fought before. So it's an intriguing matchup. Now, Cowboy has been on a big of a losing skid of his own. In his last 6 fights, he has 0 wins, 5 losses, and 1 no contest. So he really needs a win badly here. Now, Cowboy can beat you any way he chooses. He's mainly known for the submissions. His submission game, his groundwork is kind of his calling card and how he sees victory. But he still does have the knockout capability and the knockout power to beat someone. You saw in his head kick devastation of Matt Brown and how he ended the hype train, or the newly found hype train of Alexander Hernandez. And even his fight versus Ali Quinta, where he just basically slowly broke Ali Quinta into taking that win. So he can pick 2 poisons, but it's mainly with both these guys. Both their calling cards are grappling. So the question is, when 2 grapplers face each other, it's usually a stand-up bout. So the question is, who has the better stand-up out of the 2? Now, the question going into this fight is this a possible retirement fight for either of these men? Because both of them are getting up there in age. You have Donald Cerrone, who is 39. You have Joe Lauzon, who is 37. And he has not fought actively since 2019. Both men have taken a lot of damage over their career. So if either one of them were to call a retirement or end it, I wouldn't be shocked. It'd be, sad. A lot of fan favorites leaving the sport, but it'd be in due time. So I believe that Cowboy Cerrone, he takes this fight though. I think his striking is better than Joe Lauzon. He's more active, and the grappling, even it hypothetically does get to the ground, I think Cerrone has the grappling advantage over Joe Lauzon. So I'm going to take Cowboy Cerrone to win by decision. Next fight on the card, you have Mauricio Shogun Rua taking on Ovince St. Preux. Now, Ovince St. Preux, he's on a 2-fight losing streak, coming up back-to-back KO losses to Tanner Boser at heavyweight and Jamal Hill at light heavyweight. Now, with Ovince St. Preux, his strength is 100% in his submission game. He has, in the UFC, the most Von Flue choke finishes in the UFC history. He actually has more Von Flue finishes than Von Flue does. So it's basically the Von Preux choke at this point. But even though his submissions are what his calling card is, he still has more knockouts than he does submissions. And you still have to be wary of the knockouts because he does have that power. You see in his knockout wins over Alonzo Menefield, over Corey Anderson, over Pat Cummings, he can still has the power. The question is, though, is he able to throw it? Because you see in his recent fights, some of his more recent fights, he's been kind of trigger happy. He hasn't thrown as much, and he gets tired very easily. So you can see age is kind of catching up to him. So if he is any trigger shy in this matchup, especially against Shogun Rua, it'll be a quick night for him. So he has to really throw and let his hands loose if he wants to gain a victory. Next, we move on to Shogun, the bona fide first ballot UFC Hall of Famer, already in the UFC for his incredible fight over Dan Henderson, looking to rebound again because his last fight he lost TKO to Paul Craig. But Shogun, he has fought everyone, the former Pride middleweight champion, former light heavyweight champion. He has been in there with the who's who, and he is always willing to stand and give everybody the fight that they want. You never see a boring Shogun fight, even at his old age. And you see he has wins over Little Nog, Tyson Pedro, Corey Anderson, Alistair Overeem, Bill Machida. He still brings it. He still has that power, and he will be looking to headhunt and for the knockout because that is his calling card. He wants to go in there, make it a dirty fight, and knock OSP out. Now, this fight is a rematch of the 2014 encounter in which OSP won. He knocked out Shogun. So Shogun's looking for that revenge to get that win back and maybe quite possibly that knockout back. Now, this matchup is the classic striker versus grappler. You have Shogun, who has the clear advantage in the striking over OSP, and you have OSP, who has who's head and shoulders better than Shogun in grappling. So the question is, which man gets it to where they feel advantage? Because if OSP takes down Shogun, it's gonna be OSP's fight. But we keep it standing, and we see how OSP has been kind of trigger shy over the last few fights. It could be Shogun's fight, and that's why I'm picking Shogun. I think even though Shogun is getting up there in age, he still looks like he can still throw. He still has the ability to stand and trade and bang, and I think he takes the decision over OSP tonight. Moving on to the next fight of the card, you have a key matchup in top 10 lightweights as number 5 Michael Chandler takes on number 7 Tony Ferguson. Now, Tony Ferguson is on a 3-fight losing streak, and he needs a win badly. Those 3 losses weren't like close losses. He was utterly dominated. 2 decision losses to Beneil Dariush and current champion Charles Oliveira, as well as being finished in the interim title fight with Justin Gaethje. And it's kind of sad you see the way Tony has kind of taken that slight nosedive, because this is a guy we're talking who was on a 12-fight winning streak, who was basically the number 1 contender for that lightweight title, but he never got the chance to fight for the title. His only chances were interim title fights. Now, no matter if Tony's on a losing streak or not, he still will always be a fan favorite because he brings it in his fights. You see that in his wins over Cowboy Cerrone, Anthony Pettis, Kevin Lee, RDA, Edson Barboza, Lando Venata. He will fight tooth and nail and try to bring it his all. And he can do it many ways. Standing with his dangerous elbows, or even on the ground with his submissions, his Darce finishes, his triangle choke finishes. He knows how to finish each way possible. But the question is with Tony, is time catching up to him? Because even prior to those losses when he was on the winning streak, you saw him kind of get hurt a bit, but still stagger a bit, but still come back to win. And even before that winning streak, when he lost to Michael Johnson, you didn't see him get dominated like this badly. Is age catching up to him, or is it time that Tony walked away? Because he is 38 years old, so he's not going to be around the sport forever. But I know he wants one last title shot before he calls it a quit. But this isn't the first time, we see Tony deal with some adversary. We saw him losing that title shot to Khabib back in UFC 223 because of the cables basically blowing out his entire knee. He was able to come back and then rack off 2 wins after that. And especially now that Tony has a good layoff, kind of clearing his head, resting his body, we may see the Tony Ferguson of old, hopefully. Now, he doesn't draw an easy welcome back fight as he takes on number 5 Michael Chandler. Now, since making the switch from Bellator to the UFC, Michael Chandler has been having exciting fights no matter what the outcome is. You saw his first fight, him knocking out Dan Hooker, he immediately challenging Charles Oliveira for the vacant title and having a fight of the year contender with Justin Gaethje. He will always bring the fight to his opponent, win, lose, or draw. He's either looking to get knocked out or knock somebody out. Now, Michael Chandler has some notable wins over Dan Hooker, Brent Primus, Benson Henderson, Eddie Alvarez, and Patricky Pitbull. His calling card, what he does to get these wins is 2 options. Either using his D1 wrestling background to grind down his opponent, wear them down, and win that way, or using his unbelievable knockout power. You see, in that Dan Hooker fight, his right hand just put Dan Hooker out instantly. So the question is, which one will he use for the best call of action against Tony Ferguson? Now, with these two lightweights, this has the potential to be the fight of the night. And it's going to be an amazing fight and an interesting fight. Now, who do I think is going to win? It's kind of hard because my heart says Tony, because Tony Ferguson, I'm trying to not be biased. Tony Ferguson is my favorite fighter. I love watching him fight. But my head says Michael Chandler, especially with the wrestling. And you see how with Tony, in his most recent fight, he's been getting dominated by grappling with Charles Oliveira and Mike and Benil Dariush. So it's got to be a tricky. I don't. I still think with Tony, with this break that he's taken, kind of clearing his head a bit, I think we see a new and improved Tony, and I think he lets loose more, and I think he takes it. I think he ends up submitting Michael Chandler. I think Michael Chandler's going to get wrestling happy late in the fight, and Tony's going to capitalize and latch onto his neck, breaking his 3-fight losing streak and moving back into the lightweight top 5. Moving on to the first of our 2 title fights, you have the strawweight championship fight as Rose Namajunas takes on number 2 Carla Esparza. Now this is a rematch of their 2014 fight for the first ever, to become the first ever strawweight champion, a fight in which Carla Esparza won by rear naked choke. Now Carla Esparza has been on a 5-fight winning streak, having wins over Yan Xiaonan, Marina Rodriguez, Michelle Waterson, and Alexa Grasso. And she does all this by what her calling card is, her dominating wrestling. That's who she's been her whole career, just looking to take you down, grind it out, and win that way. That's how she beats the people in the division. That's kind of how what led her to that first title victory over Rose Namajunas. So she's looking to just break Rose down, kind of withstand any strikes Rose gives, take her down, and not let her up. Because if she keeps her down for a majority of the fight, that's how she wins, kind of break Rose's spirit. But she does not want to stand with Rose. Her goal is just to take Rose down and wear her down. For the champion, Rose Namajunas, she's on a 3-fight winning streak, 2 decision wins over Zhang Weili and Jessica Andrade, and 1 knockout of Zhang Weili. Now, this is not the same Rose as 2014 because I believe she didn't even have 10 fights going into that first fight with Carla Esparza, so she's very new to the sport. And we see how she has improved over the years, especially you see her wins over Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Jessica Andrade, Zhang Weili, Michelle Waterson, Paige VanZant. She just keeps improving over time, and it just gets better later in her career. Now, a main storyline going into this fight for Rose is she is undefeated in rematch. She's currently 3-0 in rematch fights. She won her rematch against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, her rematch over Jessica Andrade, her rematch over Zhang Weili. It seems like if you fight Rose twice, she knows how to win and pulls out the win. She does this because of her excellent footwork. She never is stationary. She never is just waiting for her opponent. She's always moving in and out, whether it's the leg kicks, the quick jabs, everything. That's how she decides to win that way. And she does have some great grappling. Her submission wins over Paige VanZant and Michelle Waterson and Angela Hill. So it's a mix of both, but she's looking to just keep standing and pick apart her opponent, and that's how she wins. Now, there's a classic striker versus grappler. Each woman wants to get the fight into their wheelhouse. Carla wants to take her down. Rose wants to keep her standing. I think just Rose gets better over time, and she's going to continue her dominance as the strawweight champion, and she will eventually become the best strawweight champion of all time, and maybe even the best female champion of all time. So I see Rose staying undefeated in her rematches, getting a unanimous decision win over Carla Esparza. Moving on to the main event, at 155 pounds for the title, champion Charles Oliveira takes on number 1 contender Justin Gaethje. Now for Justin, this is a hometown fight. He's from Arizona. He wants to win the belt in Arizona, so that crowd's going to be energizing him to his ability. In his last 6 wins, he is 5-1. His only loss is coming to Khabib in the title unification bout. With his wins over Michael Chandler, Tony Ferguson, Donald Cerrone, Edson Barboza, James Vick, Justin Gaethje is looking to give a performance of a lifetime. Now, his stand-up, electric. It seems like no matter how many times he gets hit, he's going to keep walking you down and put that pressure on his opponent, even if he's like 5 seconds away from getting completely knocked out. And another key that he can use is his leg kick. Justin Gaethje has some powerful legs. He has a TKO leg kick win back in the WSOF. So he's going to look to capitalize that and kind of limit Charles Oliveira, his grappling, by wearing on that leg. Now, a question I have for Justin Gaethje in this fight is, will he use that wrestling? You know, he is a D1 wrestler from the University of Northern Colorado, an All-American, but in his fights, he doesn't lean to that wrestling. You wouldn't know he is a wrestler unless he tells you that he's a wrestler, because that's just not in his game. But it seems like he could lean to the wrestling tonight and kind of throw Charles Oliveira off a bit. But I think he's gonna want to keep this one standing and do what he does best and just keep that pressure coming on Charles Oliveira. But the champ Charles Oliveira, he's been on a resurgence that we have not seen in the UFC in probably a long time, if ever. 10-fight winning streak, wins over Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler, Tony Ferguson, Kevin Lee, Jared Gordon, even more over that list. It seems it was at a point where Charles Oliveira could have possibly been cut from the UFC. He was missing weight, bunch, getting knocked out, not living up to that potential, but something changed, and he's become one of the most dominating fighters on a lightweight run, leading up to his title fight and defense of it. For Charles Oliveira, his style is kind of a mixed style. He is heavy lean to grappling, but he does have the knockout to back it up. You saw in his knockout with Michael Chandler. But his submissions over Kevin Lee, Dustin Poirier, his grappling just wearing and breaking Tony Ferguson into a dominating decision victory. He can mix it up on you, so you have to kind of guess which Charles Oliveira you're gonna get tonight. But the question for Charles Oliveira is, how does he handle the first 1 or 2 rounds? Because in his most recent fights, he's been kind of a slow start. You saw he dropped the first round to Dustin Poirier. He dropped the first round to Michael Chandler. He dropped the first round to Kevin Lee, but he has come back in all 3 of those fights and finished each of those opponents. So, but with Justin Gaethje, you can't take a round off with him. If you take a round off with him, he will finish you. So Charles has to be smart on how he approaches Justin Gaethje. Another question for Charles is, does he finally get the monkey off his back of being champion? Because when he was going on that run, and even him fighting for the title, he didn't fight the number one, because Dustin took off to fight the Conor McGregor, the trilogy, and he was left to fight Michael Chandler. But then when he came back, when Dustin was ready for the title fight, he then finished Dustin. But this is the last obstacle in, I think, Charles Oliveira's way to prove that he is the number one at lightweight. Because a win over Justin Gaethje will solidify that, and he finally gets that monkey off his back. Now, with all this said and done, I just think Justin's pressure and is just too much for Charles. I think he's going to wear down Charles and kind of frustrate Charles with his takedown, because I know Charles wants to take him down and not stand with Justin. But I think the pressure of Justin Gaethje is too relentless for Charles to just take off that first round and lose, and that's why I think Justin will win. I believe it will be a 4th-round TKO. Justin wins, becomes the undisputed champion in his home crowd, and you see the crowd erupt with elation. Now, some other notable fights on this card. You have Blagoy Ivanov taking on Mauricio Lima in a heavyweight marquee matchup. Both men probably looking to get to the top 15, maybe even top 10 of the heavyweight division. You have Randy Brown taking on Chaos Williams, heavy hitters in welterweight division. That'll be a great fight. You have Brendan Royval taking on Matt Schnell at flyweight. Every flyweight matchup is basically, a next shot for contendership, so that'll be good. Macy Chiasson taking on Norma Dumont, hoping to revive that women's featherweight division that's been on the ropes for basically since its inception. And you also have Tracy Cortez making her return fight. So all in all, it's going to be a great card, and I cannot wait to watch.